conference day at the Killyhevlin. It's the 2025 Tourism Conference through a Regenerative Lens. Let's see how this goes.
And since then I have met a young farmer setting a cabin on their farm for diversification near Loch Ney. I've met a man opening a whisky hotel in Carnlough. I have eaten from a 50-mile menu in Ballycastle with ingredients sourced within 50 miles of the door. I've seen a new 5-star hotel in Portrush, well, will be. I have spoken to restaurant owners about giving out about us complaining in the south about our VAT rate when we have 13.5% and you're dealing with 20%. I have seen trees down in every county and every town I passed and people dealing with the fallout of the storm and getting their businesses back on track. I have had my full waterproofs on yesterday, only for the sun to come out, and then I've taken my full waterproofs off, only for the rain to come hammering down. And I spoke to a chef last night who told me that there should be no secrets in business in a destination. If you're doing something well, you should share it, and you should bring the destination up, and bring the suppliers, and bring the customers, and bring your hotel and your restaurant along with you. And last night I sat down to dinner and I was reading a visitor experience development plan that spoke about a new way of thinking about tourism. It was a plan that spoke of a place where visitors would come
to go to June. But I would like to point out for any visitors, when I did take on the role, I assured the staff I don't do wet. And to date, I've only got wet on 3 occasions. So for somebody working in the Fermanagh and Omagh district, it's a total lie. It doesn't rain here all the time. And I've done, I believe, somewhere over 200 functions. And I've only got wet 3 times. So I'd just like to put that correction in as well. So now to the formal speech. Good morning, Minister Archibald, MLAs, councillors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As Chair for Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, I'm delighted to welcome you all here to the Killyhevlin Lakeside Hotel and Lodges for the Council's Tourism Conference entitled Tourism Through a Regenerative Lens. I would like to extend a particularly warm welcome to Dr. Kiva Archibald, Minister for the Economy. We are honoured to have you with us today and we eagerly anticipate your insights and perspectives on a sustainable future for all. We are also privileged to be joined by an array of distinguished speakers, including consultants and practitioners in the fields of regenerative tourism. Our conference lead, Paul O'Helia, sorry Paul, not too bad, from the Irish Independent, David Roberts from Tourism Northern Ireland, Miss Orla Carl from Fáilte Ireland, Miss Tina O'Dwyer from the Tourism Space, Miss Grania O'Connor from Quilca Lakeland's UNESCO Global Geopark, and Gillian Beer, who lives down the road from me at Fermanagh Resort here in Fermanagh. You're very welcome and we look forward to hearing from you all later. Today's conference provides us with the opportunity to come together to explore and celebrate the crucial themes of sustainable and regenerative tourism, an area where innovation and responsibility converge to pave the way for a brighter future for all. This conference is a testament to the collective commitment of everyone involved in tourism to foster an industry that not only thrives but also respects and enhances the natural built and cultural heritage of our region. Sustainable and regenerative tourism is not just a trend, it is imperative. It is about creating experiences that are enriching and enduring for both visitors and residents alike. It is also about ensuring that tourism contributes positively to our economy, our environment and our communities. By embracing these principles, we can protect our unique landscapes, support local businesses and build resilient, vibrant communities. As we delve into the various discussions today, I am confident that we will be inspired by a wealth of knowledge and experience shared by our speakers. I would encourage everyone to engage in meaningful dialogue, exchange ideas and forge partnerships that will drive us forward in our quest for a sustainable and regenerative tourism industry. On behalf of Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, On my own behalf, I would like to thank you all for coming here today and for your ongoing commitment to work together to ensure that our tourism industry continues to thrive. I'm confident that the conference will spark new ideas and collaborations. I'm excited to see the outcomes of our collective efforts. Together we can create a tourism landscape that is not only sustainable but also regenerative, one that restores and revitalizes.
Good morning, and I left Coleraine yesterday morning, so people really have travelled the length of the island to be here, and certainly I've had a series of really useful and enjoyable engagements here in Fermanagh. And regional balance is one of the four priorities of my economic vision, and tourism has great potential to promote regional balance. That is particularly the case in Fermanagh and Omagh, a truly beautiful part of the world with unique natural assets, and I think you only have to look out the window to see that. Today's conference is an opportunity to talk about how we can work together to realise this tourism potential. Yesterday I met with council members and with local tourism and hospitality employers to discuss the barriers that need to be removed and the opportunities that need to be grasped. There are many positives. Tourism is now a priority for my department. My predecessor, Minister Conor Murphy, established a new tourism partnership board tasked with co-designing a 10-year tourism and vision action plan. Launched last month, this ambitious plan aims to grow tourism expenditure from overnight visitors to over £2 billion by 2035. It is important that there is a strategic approach both at regional and at local level. A local economic partnership is being established in Fermanagh and Omagh to ensure that the development of the economy, including tourism, is being driven by the local community. These partnerships will help determine the activities of the executives departments, Invest NI and tourism agencies. Ring-fence funding is also being provided, and this funding can be used to support local tourism. The Visitor Experience Development Plan for Fermanagh and Omagh area, launched in July 2023, will act as a 10-year roadmap for tourism. The plan aims to position the Fermanagh Lakelands, Omagh and Enniskillen as world-class sustainable and regenerative tourism propositions with rich natural and cultural heritage. Crucially, this markets the area not just as individual attractions, but as a coherent package, a brand. This approach attracts more people who will stay for longer and spend more. Tourism NI are also procuring an expert consultant to lead on new destination stewardship framework and pilot plan. The Mid-South West Growth Deal will also provide significant support for regenerative and sustainable tourism. A £21 million proposal to support 5 tourism initiatives stretching from the Marble Arch Caves to Castle Caldwell seeks to deliver innovative and inclusive growth through sustainable development and responsible landscape management, as well as improving the quality and access to these attractions. The proposed growth deal investment in the Ulster American Folk Park at Omagh will be another significant catalyst for regeneration, acting as a magnet for increased visitor numbers from right across the island and beyond. Cross-border collaboration is also a positive. During a meeting with my new counterpart in the South, Minister Burke, we agreed to work more closely to maximise the opportunities of our all-island tourism offering. The shared island funding announcement made earlier this week is also very welcome. This will see the development of cross-border trails and sustainable amenities. This will not only encourage more domestic and international visitors to explore these locations, it will also attract additional investment, more jobs and increased prosperity for local communities. The shared destination project initiatives at Killyhevlin Lakeside and Slieve Beg will see the development of cross-border trails and amenities also. We are also making significant progress on plans to include Fermanagh into Culture Ireland's Hidden Heartlands brand. Tourism Ireland's budget is increasing, and this will help it to attract more international tourists. It is important that tourists are steered to all parts of the region, and I will continue to have that conversation with Tourism Ireland. I recognise too that there are challenges. The difference in the cost of doing business north and south is a challenge. The reduction of VAT in the south and the rise of national insurance in the north will only heighten the differential. We are lobbying London hard on these issues, and indeed my colleague, the Finance Minister, John O'Dowd, is meeting with Treasury today. Research has been commissioned to strengthen our lobbying efforts with empirical evidence. We are also lobbying London for a mitigation to the ETA scheme, which risks deterring international tourists from the south coming north. Finally, as has been well documented, all departments, including my own, are under huge financial pressure. So we all have to collaborate to stretch resources as much as possible and to maximise impact. Overall, the opportunities vastly outweigh the challenges. So thank you to Alison and your colleagues at Council for creating the space for this conversation about how we realise the full tourism potential of this beautiful part of the world. As Economy Minister, I am fully committed to working with you and supporting you. I wish you well with the rest of the conference today, and unfortunately I can't stay, but officials from my department, Dan and David from Tourism NI, are here. And I very much look forward to seeing the tourism offering here grow in the months and years ahead. Thank you very much.
I was on this stage was almost 20 years ago, where I had my wedding reception here. And I met David, the general manager, around that time, and my family and friends from across the water still talk about hospitality and the food and how great the experience was at the Killyhevlin from that day. So it was great to see how the hotel has kind of grown and developed from that. It's great to see how the sector is going to develop since then. Before we dive more deeply into regenerative tourism, I suppose I want to really give you a flavour of Tourism and I's plans for the year ahead and beyond. And I'll be joining the panel later, so I'm happy to take any questions around what I'm about to talk about. As Minister Archibald set out, we now have a 10-year vision for tourism and an ambition to really grow the value of the sector over the next decade, and really to deliver that growth in a different way, a more regionally balanced way, and a more sustainable way. I think it's worth reflecting on where we are and some of the underlying trends and challenges that we face. We did see a really good bounce back, I think, from the pandemic, from tourism, much better than I think many people expected. But we know how it's been quite a challenging position over the last 12 months or so, and that for many businesses it's either been moderate growth or possibly even been static or a decline. And I think we do really recognise that the industry was in a difficult time last year in particular. So I wanted to just touch on some of the highlights of the additional marketing and promotion activity which Tourism and I undertook for the area over that time. Our social and digital activity, for example, we reached about 1.3 million people. Really important because more than 80% of people now research and book their trips online. We reached about 1 million people through our press campaign, and we undertook extensive PR activity, including around 200,000 engagements through influencers. And I think some of the benefits of that are still to be realised, but I think what it really did also do was drive some additional interest and business to the area as a result of that campaign. So we had over 20,000 additional views of the Fermanagh Lakeside Hotel website, and I know there was a number of additional bookings to a number of the hotels and a number of other experiences within the area. So for us, a really positive example of kind of partnership working and what we can do in terms of achieving standout and delivering outcomes for the area. Our spring campaign is currently in full swing, and I think Fermanagh and the Sperrins are a really strong feature of that campaign across the island, whether that's the accommodation offered at Lusty Legacy, Michael said this morning, or some of our attractions and experiences. Marble Arch Caves are in the campaign, hydro bikes, the Sperrins cycle experiences in the campaign as well. And I think for us the reach of what we can do through that campaign is really important to sort of drive business and deliver additional activity for the area. For us, I think there is, however, still lots of opportunities for the industry to get more involved in some of our campaigns and be promoted more strongly through our social media channels. I think we'd also like to see greater participation in the industry in some of the direct sales activity. So Tourism Ireland, for example, have 250 opportunities this year for businesses in the north to participate in their sales platforms, and we'd be really keen to have more local businesses participate in some of that activity. But taking a step back and sort of, I suppose, looking forward a little bit as well, I think it's worth just reflecting on what inspires visitors to look at this island and to potentially come to this place. And we know that from our research that visitors do seek a very authentic experience, they're looking for immersive experiences, and they're looking for sort of something that is very much about, as Paul said, being a temporary local. When we ask people what motivates them to consider coming to this place, there's three things that really stand out. They want to relax in their mind, they want to escape and get away from it all, and they want to enjoy great food and drink. And when Tourism Ireland asks people what they're looking for when they consider a trip to the island, the top two things that always come out are beautiful landscapes and scenery, and trying something different or doing something new. So for me, those factors all play really, really well into what this area's got to offer. So I think there is a net demand for more tourism in this area, and I think this area really does have a lot of potential for growth. And I think part of the challenge is how do we capitalise on that potential. So one of the areas that we're looking at in detail is whether we have the right type and mix of accommodation over the next 5 to 10 years across the north. And there's quite a detailed research project that we're undertaking at the moment to look at where the gaps may be and what the needs are, which colleagues from Council and FLT have been involved in. So we want to really influence the developmental policy in this area and then look at whatever supports or incentives that tourism and I might look to put in place following the transfer of powers from Invest in I. We're also looking at how we sort of scope out further investment in visitor experiences, because we know that investments through the growth deal and this shared island unit are really important, but we know we want to do more and we want to expand some of our experiences even further. I think we also know that we need to do more around how we embed sustainable principles and ways of working into all aspects of our tourism sector. We know that already 50% of visitors say they're prepared to pay more for sustainable experiences, and that trend we think is only going to grow more and more in importance. So it's great to see how many local businesses are part of the Sustainable Business Network, participated in sustainable programmes, and we're looking to kind of roll out that activity more significantly across the north. We're also looking to expand and refresh our sustainability supports, and as part of that, in conjunction with Colleagues in Falkshire Island, we're looking to launch a carbon-specific calculator for tourism businesses. It will allow you to very, very specifically measure your carbon impact, and then look to sort of see how that informs action and further work in the future. And in this area, we're also going to be working closely with Tourism Ireland colleagues on a slow tourism month, which is due to be scheduled for June. The focus there really being about how we encourage visitors to increase dwell time and showcase the local benefits of tourism. Because I think we really want to bring the community element even more to the fore and allow how we apply regenerative and stewardship lenses to how we develop and grow tourism. As has been said, there's been some really positive work already in this area, and we'll hear more about that as the day goes on. And I think, as the Minister said, we really want to embed that destination stewardship approach much more significantly in terms of how we develop the sector. So one area might be around how we develop the connecting economy, how we develop sustainable transport and access to the different attractions and accommodation that we've got across the area. So as the Minister said, the first step for us is really around developing that framework and then piloting that with a specific destination over the next 12 months. So I'll finish by saying a little bit just about our ongoing work to promote tourism careers and address skills gap, linked to the Minister's objective around creating good jobs. I mean, we know that recruitment and retention continues to be a key issue for the sector. So over the next year, we plan to run a further phase of our Make It Here campaign, which we think has been really valuable in helping to change perceptions and increase the number of people applying for available roles in the sector. So the T&I team, we're always looking for more businesses to get involved in that campaign, so please take a look and see if it's something you might want to participate in. We're also developing a new bespoke employer excellence programme, modelled on the scheme developed by Falkshire Island. That scheme is really about how we elevate job quality and embed good working practices right across the industry. And for us, it's a really important initiative because we know that it's really competitive to get the right people and the people that you need, and that lots of other sectors are becoming much more competitive in terms of the salaries that they offer and the working conditions that they make available as well. So we're looking to launch that programme later this year, so please look out for it and consider it as something you can commit to participating in. I think it'll be very beneficial for those that do. That's it from me. As I say, I'll let everyone else begin.
Thank you, Paul. I always use the thing that we're talking about Wildland Way, you know, success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. So that's kind of always in my mind. Today, actually, if I get my first slide. Great. So I work with Fulge Ireland and kind of the equivalent of David and T&I down in the south. And I suppose just to explain what I'm going to cover today is that we talk about regenerative tourism, it's like it's a policy, it's a trend, it's a thing. How do you then, I suppose, as an agency, help the industry and to kind of bring it into action and to help bring it to life? So that's what I want to cover today. So a couple of areas I'm going to cover. We were fortunate, what has helped us, I suppose, accelerate this thinking. We were thinking about it, but it's helped us was the EU Just Transition Funds. I'm going to explain that. I'm also going to take in a bit of a history lesson and just bring it back in time. We're looking at a beautiful scenery here. The area I'm going to talk about doesn't have that exact beauty, unfortunately, but it will. I'm going to talk about our vision, the journey and its implementation. But before I start, I just want to, we need to recognise that like tourism by its nature has an environmental impact. Okay, and some may say it actually is a problem. So what we're trying to do in Fulge Ireland is create a better tourism. A tourism that has a positive benefit for communities and nature. It's a little bit aspirational, Paul talked about it there. It is this idea, there's no standard, there's no, here's the next steps and you gotta do this and you'll get there. It's a journey, we're only on the journey. But what we're trying to do, what we've done with the business, we're working with them, is that they have committed to come on this journey. They have committed to try to do better. And that's all we can ask, to do better, okay? And if each of us does a little bit better, then we'll get there in the end. So, just to firstly cover off what is the EU Just Transition. It's a fund by the EU for areas right across Europe that have been negatively impacted by the change to climate neutrality. And the whole point of that is that we as society have to do better, but that means things have to change and there are communities that are impacted by that. The Irish government were able to get 84.5 million from the EU, which they match funded, to bring a big pot of 168 million. And then we pitched for tourism because we believe that tourism is a regenerative sector. We have proof, and I'll talk you through that as well. And we were able to get a pot of 68 million to invest in this. And the whole area around the EU Just Transition Fund is three key priorities that it wants to do. Okay, very simply, create employment, for former workers and the communities of these areas that are affected by it. And then it wants to regenerate and repurpose former industrial peatlands. And then the third one is all around smart communities and transport. So we're only focusing on the first two that works from a tourism perspective. Just want to share with you. These are the territories throughout Europe that are affected by climate change. Okay, not climate change, but this whole just transition. And in Ireland, it's our area in the Midlands, which you're all probably familiar with, that is most affected. And this was identified because these are the counties that are most affected by stopping peat production and generating electricity. And just to show you that this is quite a not an affluent territory, I suppose, in the sense that it was heavily reliant on peat production. It would have had, 6%, only 6% of the population, 10% unemployment, and only 2% of tourism. So in effect, quite an immature tourism destination. So let's go back in time a bit, and I want to take you through here to the Ireland of the 1940s, 50s and 60s in this territory, okay? And this, as I say to you, was peat production, very industrialised. It was seen as Ireland as an agricultural country. People saw the peatlands as wastelands and poverty. If you're living there, you were in a barren desert and there's nothing to come to you. But this is where we utilised for our electricity generation, started in the 1950s, went right up to the 2019. And you know, in here we had 6 turf power generation stations, we had Ardnagh Crusher, and just to show you what innovation there was at that time, right, and the industrialisation. Ardnagh Crusher, when it was built, was the largest hydroelectric dam in the world. So much so that the President of America decided, well, a little old Ireland can have that, I'm going to do one better and build the Hoover Dam. So it started here with us. So we really are a country of innovators and thinkers. But because we're such an agricultural destination, I don't know if you saw the picture there, Ardnagh Crusher was actually a tourism destination because people couldn't believe this level of industrialisation was actually happening in agriculture in Ireland. But what it did was it gave employment, it built communities, and the area thrived. So that's all great, all wonderful. But you can see from the photographs, really decimating the landscape there. You know, not pretty to drive through, not pretty to, you know, to see, but very economically benefited, loads of jobs, thriving. So that brings us to just transition and what we're trying to do here. So the idea around just transition is the transitioning of communities due to climate action. But the word, why it's said just, is because it needs to be fair and just. And that's what people kind of go, what is that? It's about being fair. So when you take away people's livelihoods and you make changes, you can't do that in an unfair way. You have to do it in a just way. And that's why this fund was set up, was to help that, to make that transition fair and just. So people will sometimes say it's not enough of it, but you know, you got to start somewhere. And I suppose the whole idea is that this territory, this peatlands, they powered, I suppose, pretty much for 100 years all of Ireland in terms of its electricity. And now it's time for us to reimagine and see how we can use this territory to power another form of, I suppose, regeneration and economic impact for the area. So that leads us then to, I suppose, our vision of what we were trying to do. And I suppose before I go into the vision, I just want to talk to you about the guiding principles that are fundamental to everything that we do. And this is really, Paul talked to you about the 3 words. Unfortunately, I've got 5 sentences, but maybe you might get a word here too. And it is that tourism needs to give back more than it takes. Okay? You know, we need to revitalise local communities through tourism. We need to keep culture and traditions alive. We need to preserve and promote biodiversity, and we need to share memorable, authentic local experiences with visitors. That's what it's about. Not more than 3 words, I'm sorry, Paul, but that's what it is about. And that's at the crux of everything that we do. So everything that we are doing, all my team up at going, is at meeting those first ones. They are the guiding principles of everything that we do. And I suppose our vision then is that we want to harness the appeal of this natural landscape, these wonderful communities, this rich culture, this rich heritage, and harness that to create, you know, exciting and wonderful tourism experiences that will motivate visitors to come, that will boost the local economy, and that will help transition for a different, I suppose, employment due to this climate change. And I suppose, as Paul mentioned there earlier, we're probably a little bit fortuitous in the sense that this change has coincided with a change in what visitors want, in that change to green transport, in that change to looking for more sustainable leisure and tourism holidays. So it's probably, and I don't think anyone planned it, but fortuitous in that sense. So based on that, that's where we worked on it. And I suppose we believe we believe this strongly, is that tourism can enhance a region as a place to live, as much as it is a great place to visit. Because a great place to visit is a great place to live, because we all know all our visitors want to meet locals and see our culture and our heritage. So they completely coincide. So through making it somewhere a great place to live, visitors will come, we can create jobs, and if we do this sustainably, we can transform the destination. I wanted to share this picture with you because I think it's really, really important. Because I showed you the ugly landscape that peat production, you know, do, but nature is really strong. Within 10 years it comes back to this, to the bottom photograph. That's worth visiting. No one wants to visit the top one. Okay? So we have to work with nature, work with our assets and use that. And I think it's really, you know, it was an image that really reflected me that is how we can do it. And I've been in tourism, as Paul mentioned, a long time, longer than I kind of originally planned, but anyway, I love it too much. And we found it hard to go, how do I bring a tourist to that top photograph? No one wants, now there's an excitement because there's so much going on and we can do that. So, our journey. When this pot was announced, we went, okay, we believe tourism has an opportunity here. And so we pitched for it. And we pitched for it because we believed in tourism, as we'd done before, as Paula mentioned with the Wild Atlantic Way. We had seen how, through the development of tourism, we brought new life to a marginalised and peripheral destination on the west coast of Ireland. And just to, sometimes we forget, we kind of think, oh, it's always been there, it's great. In 2008, Ireland went into a severe recession and an economic depression in 2009. And what that meant, that we had 7.7 million visitors in 2007, and that dropped to 5.9 in 2010. Okay, so decimation. Through the Wild Atlantic Way and the development, we got that back up to 9 million in 2017. We then succeeded in getting 2 million additional visitors in 23 from 2013. It's got 3 billion in revenue, and most importantly, 35,000 additional jobs. So it delivers an economy as well. Now, as I say, this is an ongoing project, because even with the Wild Atlantic Way, you don't just step away when that's done. We are constantly monitoring, constantly making sure we don't do over tourism, constantly making sure that it is a good experience and that we don't have a negative effect, that we have a positive benefit. So you have to be right across, not just economy, but on social and community. So we knew tourism could do this, okay? We also, I suppose, a little bit have been doing some forward thinking. We knew that the peak production was going to stop, so we kind of went, okay, how could we use the lands here? So we've done two reports looking at the narrow gauge railway lines that run right across the bogs, and see could we develop them into segregated cycle lanes and trails that could connect towns, villages, attractions, and connect it to our existing network of greenways and stuff like that. So these studies were really, really fortuitous for us from that perspective. It also wasn't just on us. There is a land use strategy, and as you see in the photograph, money had been given to Board Omagh, who were involved in peat production, to repurpose the land and rewild it and get it back together again. And that was important for us, because then it means that this land is rehabilitated, and then if we can implement good visitor management, we can make it more accessible and most suitable for visitors, and then it can be leveraged from that perspective. Also, we had developed a regional strategy for Ireland's hidden heartlands, and this strategy adopted a regenerative tourism approach to its thinking. This territory very much had been, while we had, cruising on the Shannon had been around for 60 years and very successful, a lot of times visitors were driving through this territory to get to the west coast. So how do we create stickiness, and how do we make sure that they stop? And I suppose we had a plan, but like everything, we had the plan and there was no money. So it was great then for tourism that this scheme became available. It's kind of one of those once in a lifetime opportunities, once in a generation probably possibly, that you can get a large sum of money to actually do it. But you had everything in place. You had a plan, you had willingness, and you had the ideas. And I suppose the bit for us was all that we wanted to take an approach, and it was about three things. Okay, we wanted to transform and bring access to our green, our brown and blue spaces. We wanted to slow down the visitor, no longer booting through the motorway, don't get to Galway. And three areas. We wanted a network of off-road trails, slow tourism, and an innovative accommodation offering. And that actually is quite key. One of the key things we were looking at is that, things take time, and you can't expect a large hotel to build if there's not necessarily, we talked about 2% of our tourism visitors. So we looked at an accommodation approach which is much more smaller, and looking at kind of, glamping, or looking at renovating heritage buildings, or renovating, I think Paul mentioned the farmer there in Ballygarry, but doing that, looking at farmers and talk to them, okay, how do you purpose your land and have an alternative offering? So to grow that, naturally, we reckon we will have an additional, before this ends, probably about more than 200 additional beds in this territory before it goes, all done by small operators. So, how do we implement this? Well, we're a government agency, we don't own anything because it's all done by industry, by you guys. And so we had developed a number of schemes, I know I'm late on the call, but over, sorry. So we developed a number of schemes to do this, and the whole idea, while they were individual schemes, they were to interlink. So that one, so if you had an SME, that they would be doing something that would be linked to a trail, and that everything would coexist and co-develop. So you see the first idea here is this is where we want to develop a network of trails. So we identified what land right across this area we could do. So we've identified 79 kilometres of trail network that we can develop. But those network, when they connect up, will actually deliver over 300 kilometres of trail network. So suddenly you have a huge density for the visitor. But the key part was the trail network had to connect towns, villages and or attractions. No point in having a trail in the middle of nowhere and going nowhere and having the effort to drive there and get there. The whole idea is that this will have people move along. And there's 30 million allocated to that. Similar then we just the broader scheme, and I suppose this is really where it's the principles of regenerative tourism really came into play here, and it's stipulated right throughout. And remember those 4 guiding principles I talked about through everything that we do here. So through our scheme, when people were applying, they had to demonstrate how they were going to achieve the objectives of the scheme, how they were going to deliver on regenerative tourism, how they were going to achieve environmental sustainability goals. Also with the horizontal principles, so how are they going to be inclusive? How are they going to be accessible? How are they going to do that? And then when we evaluated, and Tina's going to speak later, was part of that, we provided them with toolkits, but we also evaluated that. So one of our 4 criteria was purely on regenerative tourism. If you don't deliver on that, you don't get the money, you don't work with it. But we had people, we had toolkits, we had case studies, we had webinars, and then we also had, I think it was really, really good, we had 8 activators on the ground, so 1 in each county, on the ground to work with businesses to help them see how they could, reimagine their business through a regenerative lens. How could they see the opportunities and the possibilities, and what could they do? And I'm glad to say we've had great results. Funny colour. So we awarded last June with local authorities and state agencies. We awarded 23 projects, about 25 million. But more importantly, we have 70 businesses on a digital transformation program. It's a 2-year program to help improve their whole digital presence. We have 90 businesses on a learning network where they're working together, where they're improving their skills and their capability. We've just announced 2.9 million to 17 projects of SMEs and communities around the country, and we'll have more coming. And not only that, we've developed a whole suite of accessibility audits, and we have over 50 businesses who have actually audited their business to see, are we accessible, are we inclusive, and what do we need to do it based on that. So I'm going to show you a little video now, which I think probably sums it up a little better than me. Not working? You do it? Yeah.
Deep in the heart of Ireland, our peatlands are part of our heritage, our people and our story. As we work together to restore and protect this unique place, it's time to reimagine the Midlands, made better by you. Fáilte Ireland's Regenerative Tourism and Placemaking Scheme is a long-term vision that aims to transform tourism across the Midlands. Tourism can support the just transition towards a low-carbon economy. Tourism that gives back more than it takes, helping habitats to recover and thrive, making it better for ourselves, our community, our economy and nature. Part of the EU Just Transition Fund, the Regenerative Tourism and Placemaking Scheme for Ireland's Midlands, is an opportunity for people with ideas for regenerative tourism businesses. An opportunity to create sustainable jobs, to support livelihoods as we transform the Midlands into a climate-neutral place. Imagine new tourism experiences, bike hire, hiking trails, kayaking, glamping, new places to stay and explore, new ways to champion biodiversity, to experience our Midlands traditions, to show how local action can have a global impact, and more. A new long-term vision for the Midlands is made possible by the EU Just Transition Fund, but it needs you, its people, its businesses, and its community groups. Together, we can reimagine the Midlands made better by you. Visit fáilteireland.ie/just transition to find out more and register your interest.
So I suppose I'd just like to leave you with, I suppose, the one thought from us and behind it is that, you know, this is a journey, we're on it. We're just a state agency, so we work with businesses. The biggest thing is that it's people working together, and the best bit for me is that tourism needs to give more than it takes. It has been seen partly as an industry that is taking, you know, because we use our natural assets, but in actual fact we're custodians of it. We're custodians of our landscape, they are the biggest attractor, we're custodians of our culture, and future generations need to use it for tourism. How do we do that?
It's lovely to be here and lovely to see you all today. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to speak a little bit about Cuilcagh Lakeland's UNESCO Global Geopark, a little bit about the context of where we've come from, how we've evolved, and how we feel like we really embody the whole idea of regenerative tourism. So I hope some of today's perspectives underscore the potential of regenerative tourism in fostering positive change on a local and global stage. So I suppose what I want to talk about a lot, and it'll weave into what I'm speaking about today, and I hope you can get some thoughts from it as well, is the idea of authenticity. And I think as we're sitting in this room, that idea of authenticity is really important for the local businesses, trade, etc. that are here, and it's really important for the geopark in terms of telling the story as well. So I'm going to start, I always kind of try to give a flavour, so there's lots of people here from Fermanagh that will know the geopark, but I want to give a flavour of who we are and what we're about. So we're a landscape management organisation, we're a UNESCO Global Geopark. We've been a geopark for 20 years, so although people might be hearing about the geopark in the last number of years, this isn't an overnight success story. There's been a lot of work that has gone into the geopark and a lot of commitment from 2 councils, which I'll speak about in a minute. The area itself is over 1,700 square kilometres, so it's a huge area. It embodies 2 counties, and I'll come to that. But why is it a geopark? So geoparks are designated because of their geology of international significance. Don't worry, I'm not going to go all science on you, but the reason that we are a geopark is because of Cuilcagh Mountain, because of a site called Fermanagh Quarry, which is really important in terms of the fossils that are there, and also because of the picture you will see here where Clough Castle is in Cavan, at the ribbed moraines. So it's the longest field of ribbed moraines, which is glacial deposits in the world. So these are really important factors for us in terms of being a geopark. And the geopark has 900 million years of geological history, so it's a fascinating area. As I said, we're a cross-border geopark, the first in the world, as Paul mentioned. We have over 60 sites. The line that you see here shows where we stretch from, so we go from Castle Archdale in the top corner across to Castle Caldwell, down towards Cuilcagh Mountain Park, which is where it all began, and across the border all the way down to Lough outside Cavan Town. So the geopark came about because of the foresight of 2 local authorities who really saw the need to come together in partnership. It started initially as Cuilcagh Mountain Park, and then it developed on from that to other sites in Fermanagh, and then in 2008 it developed cross-border into County Cavan. There's an existing really strong memorandum of understanding between 2 local authorities, between Fermanagh and Omagh District Council and Cavan County Council. And I can't stress enough how much that underpins the success story. That partnership is there. So the Shared Island funding announcement that you hear of, the Shannon Pot funding announcement, the Mid-South West, which I'll talk about in a moment, that all comes from the strength and basis of that partnership and the leadership. So our mission is to nurture this. It really is to nurture the place, to ensure it provides a solid social, environmental and economic platform. And when we think of sustainability and regenerative tourism, we're thinking of the economic, but we're also thinking of the environmental and the social as well, which is really important. And we are a team of 11 at the minute, managing a vast array of operational and strategic projects for the geopark. I wanted to give you just an idea of the background. So we cover a population of roughly about 66,000 people, predominantly rural landscape, as you know. The land area, as I said, is 1,700 square kilometres. We manage over 300 kilometres of trails, and our recent storm has shown just how much of our reliance we have on impacting and mitigating climate change, and how we need to look at our operations as well around that. Our visitor numbers, we measure numbers at about 24 of our 60 sites where we have counters, and they come in at around 934,000, so significant visitor numbers to the area. Our flagship attractions will be the likes of the Marble Arch Caves, Cavan Park, and obviously there's a new development, hopefully at Lochnavar and Shannonpot as well. So we understand that tourism supports about 71,000 jobs in Northern Ireland, and 70% of these jobs are outside Belfast. And I think this is really important in the concept of regenerative tourism, and I'll come on to the network in a minute. But we are predominantly a rural economy. Rural tourism is so imperative here, and the Geopark really seeks to embody that. We have a development plan that we established in 2020, and it really provides us with the strategic direction of the Geopark. We have 5 strategic pillars, but they're outlined here, but these bleed into each other. So education is regenerative tourism, community is regenerative tourism, economic development is regenerative tourism, cross-border partnership is regenerative tourism. So although tourism is important in the Geopark, it's based around the ethos of community-led development, where social and environmental impact is just as important as economic impact. We have a charter, and you'll see some of the things that we adhere to really embody. Inclusivity, accessibility has been mentioned by Paul, that's really important. Education, heritage, landscape, all of those things form the basis for what we do. But I think it's really important, we're talking about regenerative tourism. The photo in the bottom right-hand corner is peatland restoration, and we're very involved in peatland restoration as well. So a lot of the capital funded projects you hear about, but it's imperative that we look at the environmental as well, because remember, 1 hectare of bog in natural condition can store 3,000 tonnes of carbon. That's 10 times the amount of the same section of rainforest. So that's really important. What I really want to talk about today is the establishment of our Regenerative Tourism Network. So there's lots of members here in the room. And really, Paul spoke earlier about economic nutrition, and I was thinking about it when he said it. And really, that sort of theory embodies what we in the Geopark are trying to do with our Regenerative Business Network. So this network was started in 2020. It now has 32 members. It's an award-winning network, but more importantly, it embodies the value of the Geopark and the local businesses. So these are businesses that have undertaken, Tina has run the course for us, they've undertaken a course where they really learn about minimising energy consumption, maximising energy efficiency, adopting new technologies and innovations, but it also is about empowering visitors to make more sustainable choices. So this idea of regenerative tourism and our regenerative network is firmly rooted in place, and I think that's a really important message from today. Economically, the aim is that it generates profits for business and is robust over long term. It minimises or eliminates carbon emissions, that's the ethos of it. It enriches and empowers local communities. And really, Geoparks and UNESCO designations, like Geoparks, are different World Heritage Sites because it's really about the community up approach. And it has a long-term positive impact on local nature, culture and heritage. And when we speak about heritage, we're talking about natural, we're talking about built, we're talking about intangible and cultural. And the network we see, and we hope the network members see as well, is the change catalyst needed to create these conditions. So these are just some images of some of the members that are part of the network. And really, for working with the network over the last number of years, we can see it's the agility, the stewardship, the collaboration of the network that really have led to its success. The concepts of regenerative, sustainable and green tourism are well documented, but really it's the measurement of same, and not just the measurement of economic benefit of tourism to this local area. So we can all talk about numbers that come to sites, that's really important, but how much are they spending, how long are they staying, and what's the social impact? And regenerative tourism really creates the conditions to develop that. So the network came together and recently have developed a code of practice. So the code of practice is based around the idea that it's a cross-border regenerative tourism network. Regenerative doesn't replace sustainable or ecological, it complements them. And we all know that the basic definition of regenerative is that it leaves a place better than it was before. So through collaboration and innovation, we aim to offer a sustainable sanctuary where nature thrives and local communities flourish. We want to inspire collective action to create a positive, lasting impact and legacy for future generations. And the network itself was funded through partnership between Tourism Northern Ireland, Fáilte Ireland, Cavan County Council and Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, and it really sets out these shared values for tourism businesses. The principles of our network in Fermanagh and Cavan is based around regenerative and collaborative partnership, supporting a thriving community. And that's so important, is that our communities thrive through tourism. As Orla said, that really tourism leaves the place better, it doesn't detract from it. A cherished landscape and a protected environment. We wouldn't be doing our jobs as a designated site if we didn't put environmental right at the centre of it. I think principle number 4 is really important, a living heritage, because that's really what authenticity is. When visitors come here, they want to know how the locals live, they want that experience. And really that authenticity gives that local impact. When we all come together, that has a global impact. Education, knowledge and sharing. So this is around visitors taking part in activities, really feeling embodied and part of the landscape. Accessibility and inclusion. This is a huge area for us going forward, and for the local authorities as well. And really, it's not just about accessibility, it's about inclusion, it's about sensory, it's about multi-language, it's about training for staff as well. In terms of monitoring, evaluation and outcomes, we're happy to say that we received indirect funding to look at tourism indicators in the region and how we can monitor them from a natural perspective and social capital perspective as well. And the network embodies this. You know, the destination wants people to stay longer, it wants them to spend more, but it wants them to leave the place better than it was, and this is really what the network embodies. And really, you know, we feel investment follows values and ideas. And therefore, you know, at the minute we're working on a number of projects and we've had successful funding announcements in the last number of days, which is brilliant. One of the projects I wanted to refer to is the Mid-South West Growth Deal, which is a really, really integral project for Killyhevlin Geopark and the wider region moving forward in terms of the developments at the Marble Arch Caves, the Boardwalk, Smuggler's Trail, Castle Caldwell and Lochnavar, key sites for the Geopark, key sites for our communities in terms of tourism development, experience development, and for our businesses as well. And we really believe that investment follows values, and we want to establish a sustainable, collaborative destination. These would be transformative interventions for the area, and we really hope that, you know, with the business network we can guide these. So the aim of the Mid-South West is it generates positive regenerative outcomes for the area, and this is done through, you know, inputs in the investment in the assets, but also changing tourism behaviours. And we've seen that around the Boardwalk in particular. But we know we have a responsibility in terms of education and changing behaviours through sustainable growth. The outcomes will be additional visitor spend and enhanced community engagement. So the two go together, the economic and the social go together. And again, it'll be important how we measure the social impact around this as well. Another development we're working very closely on is Lochnavar. So we have done some phase 1 works at Lochnavar, which have made a huge difference to the site through funding, but we also are looking at a bigger picture for Lochnavar through the master plan that was created a number of years ago. So this would be a strategic intervention in Lochnavar to develop a visitor centre, a viewing point, etc., and trails, and complement the existing. Again, we see this as a strategic site within the geopark, which will enable local businesses and communities to thrive. When I did these slides, the funding announcement hadn't been made, so I'm happy to say that since that, we've had a funding announcement yesterday of 6.2 million for the geopark to develop the intentions that were set out in the master plan. So this is a shared island initiative, and you know, Paul referred earlier on to the Dingle Sustainability Energy Community Master Plan. We have done this in a sense already. So I think sometimes it's about our network embodying the leadership role that they have. We are leaders in this regard on the island of Ireland. We really have taken a step forward with our network, and we hope that this continued cross-border cooperation has the potential to unlock long-term growth across the island.
funding.
Yeah, funding's on there.
I want to just briefly refer to the Shannon Pot funding as well. So in the geopark, and visitors don't see borders, we look at things on a regional perspective. So this will bring, about 5 kilometres from the Margaret Arch Caves and the boardwalk, this will bring increased visitor numbers to the area. And these sorts of development really promote regional growth and balance. The number of cross-border visits to Northern Ireland has tripled in the last decade. There's over 1.3 visited last year from ROI, up 400,000 from the original figures in 2013. So it's really important that we harness this and we get people to stay longer, spend more, but have an improved impact on the environment as well. I'm really quickly going to go through this poll, but I know we talked about trends, and I think the hidden assumptions around trends is that they're good, and I think it's important that trends focus on the need to divert to a slower, moving, deeper shift, and climate action, social impact of tourism interventions, etc. So some of the trends that you can see here, and this is from a BBC source earlier in the year, co-locations, there's a 26% increase in bookings to Norway and Finland. And we certainly can provide co-locations where people are coming to Northern Europe to go to places that are less warm from where they came from. Off the beaten track has gone mainstream. Paul referred to earlier on, after significant periods of over-tourism post-COVID, off the beaten track is on the rise. Again, we are in place to provide for that. But I think it's important that regenerative tourism and sustainability is embedded in all of these trends. So this just outlines we're committed to delivering measurable regenerative outcomes by setting clear goals and evaluating progress. This is done through our business network and the capital interventions, but it's embodied by the sustainable principles of the geopark and the UNESCO designation. And finally, just to finish, we really believe authenticity and consistency is the embodiment of the messaging of the geopark. It's the businesses, it's the communities that really make up what it is. The network that has developed over the last number of years has bought in collectively to place and community. And that's really important because regenerative tourism is all about place. The network is getting used to embodying their role as leaders in this regard. I think it's been difficult sometimes for them to see themselves as leaders, but the business network that's been created here really need to see themselves as leaders in this regard. They advocate for the natural environment, but they're the connection between communities and us in the geopark. And they're engaged with the stories, the folklore, the food, the culture, and the landscape, and all of those things.
Thank you very much, everyone who's watched this far. There was a couple of other speakers, Miss Tina O'Dwyer, founder and CEO of the tourism space, and Miss Gillian Bear, the director at Finlock Resort down there between Berleak and Enniskillen. Tina drew some inspiration from the TED Talk and the book Start With Why. Really interesting book, some interesting aspects of human psychology as to why it's so important to have a why for your business and not just a how and a what. And then Gillian spoke about running the business at Finlock, investment, return on investment, and the idea of how guests love to see regenerative tourism, and it means quite a lot of different things to different people, but ultimately what it means is low or improved environmental impact and bringing people on the journey, exposing them to local culture, traditions, foods, content, etc. So yes, unfortunately the GoPro ran out, but thank you so much everybody who spoke. Really interesting conference. I hope it is back again next year and wasn't just a one-off, and we're actually following up and continuing to push on this journey. Thank you everyone who's watched this far. If you wish to subscribe, please do so. There's content about bed and breakfasts, using data, B&B Life. We've got some big renovations coming up, so they'll all be on here. If it was just a one-off to catch this conference, you're very welcome. I hope you enjoyed the documenting of it, and we shall certainly see you again soon. Bye-bye.